My mom just now said it. At dinner, don't mistake paying our bills for being family. Admitting they'd kept me around out of pity, so I replied, then don't expect this stranger to cover next month's bills. In my family, everyone had a role. Mom was the master storyteller, always in control of the narrative. Dad, he stayed quiet, like conflict wasn't his problem. My sister was the golden child, never blamed, never wrong. And me? I was the fixer, the helper, the one who patched up the cabin, covered bills, and bailed them out whenever they needed. I genuinely thought that doing all that, sacrificing so much, would finally earn me some respect, maybe even a real place at the table. Instead, the more I gave, the more invisible I became. That night, that specific dinner, was supposed to be normal. You know, people passing plates, talking about work, everyone pretending like everything was fine. I showed up thinking, maybe this time would be different. Maybe for once, I wouldn't feel like the odd one out. Honestly, stupid of me. We were at my parents' place. The long dining table was crammed with too many chairs, and the air hung heavy with the smell of roast chicken and those inevitably overcooked vegetables. I sat near the end, my usual spot. Mom was across from me, Dad beside her, and my sister was practically glued to her phone, like it was an extension of her hand. My uncle and a couple of cousins rolled in late, loud and laughing, as if the meal was just another excuse for a performance. At first, it actually felt normal. Plates were passed, small talk drifted through the room about traffic, sports, who was working where. Then they started talking about summer family plans, who'd host holidays, who'd get to use the cabin, who'd pitch in for what. For once, I decided not to just sit there nodding. I actually added something. I said, well, since I've been handling most of the cabin stuff, maybe we should. I didn't even get to finish the sentence. Mom cut me off mid-word, that fake smile plastered on her face, and then, loud enough for everyone to hear, she dropped the bomb. Don't confuse paying bills with being part of us. We only keep you around out of pity. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was deliberate. The table froze. Just for a second. Then my uncle barked out a rough laugh, like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. My cousins grinned, like they were all in on some secret joke. My sister? She didn't even lift her eyes, just kept scrolling, pretending she hadn't heard a single word, even though I knew she definitely had. And my dad? He forked up another bite, chewing like Mom had just mentioned the weather. No flinch, no blink, no defense. Nothing. The worst part wasn't even the line itself. It was the way everyone just let it hang there, right there in front of the mashed potatoes, as if I was some sideshow for their entertainment. Even the neighbor who dropped off dessert earlier was still in the hallway, and I know he heard it too. That just added another layer of humiliation, inside the family, and in front of an outsider. One cousin even leaned back and muttered, "Guess she finally said what she meant." My uncle's wife snickered into her hand, like it was all in good fun. Meanwhile, I sat there, heat crawling up my neck. But it wasn't shame about me. I knew what I'd done for this family. I wasn't the screw-up they tried to make me out to be. I'd covered their bills, fixed their problems, kept things running more times than I could count. What really burned? It was realizing I'd actually walked into that dinner with a flicker of hope. A stupid, naive hope that maybe, just maybe, all my years of helping had finally earned me some kind of respect. But nope. Same old story. Mom's smirk told me she'd been sitting on that line for years. My uncle's laugh was her reward. My sister's silence? That was her answer. And Dad's quietness? That was the real knife twist. No surprise. No defense. Just food. I didn't argue. Didn't clap back. What was the point? The anger settled heavy in my chest. I grabbed my glass of water, took a slow, deliberate sip, and then, without a single word, pushed my chair back. Nobody said anything. Nobody called after me. Nobody seemed surprised. I walked out, the air outside colder than it should have been, the street buzzing louder than normal. I got in my car, sat there with my hands on the steering wheel for a second, then drove. No music, windows down, just the wind and the buzzing in my head. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the decision was already made. No shouting. No petty revenge. Just removal. Quiet. Clean. Final. That night, I opened my laptop, pulled up a draft listing I'd made months ago, but never touched. This time, I clicked Make Live. It was done. Let them smirk about that. You know, the thing about anger? It usually fades. You blow up, stomp around, And then later, you feel kind of dumb for reacting. But not this time. This wasn't anger anymore. This was clarity. That family dinner had basically shoved a spotlight on what I already knew. These people didn't see me as family. I was just a resource, a tool they could use whenever they wanted. So, I decided to flip the script. No more being the quiet provider in the background. They wanted to treat me as disposable? Fine. Let's see how they handled life when I stopped being their safety net. First target? The cabin. That place was their pride and joy. Every 4th of July, every family trip, they bragged about our cabin. They'd drag friends up there, host their little get-togethers, post pictures online like they were living some kind of dream life. They never once mentioned that I was the one who paid for the new roof, fixed the foundation, replaced the plumbing, and they definitely never mentioned that my name was the only one on the deed. According to them, it was ours. Yeah, not anymore. I logged into the real estate site I use for work, pulled up that draft listing I'd been sitting on for months, and I made it live. There wasn't even a moment of hesitation. Just a click, and it was done. Within 5 days, it sold. Cash offer, no counter. Gone. And I didn't even feel sad about it. I felt smug. Imagine my uncle showing up for his next fishing weekend only to find a stranger's car in the driveway. Or my cousins planning their Instagram-worthy family getaway, only to realize the cabin didn't belong to them anymore. That was worth more than the money. While the cabin deal was moving, I started cleaning up the rest of the mess I'd let them leech off me. Next stop, the credit account. 6 months earlier, my parents had needed a new washer and dryer. Their excuse? The old one died, and of course, they didn't have the money. They asked if I could just help for a bit. Like an idiot, I opened a credit account in my name and set up the payments so they could have their shiny new machines. And guess who had been covering the minimum every month because they conveniently forgot? Me. Not anymore. I logged in, locked the account, canceled autopay, and shut it down. Let the bank chase them. Not me. I even printed out the confirmation page and slid it into a folder with all the other receipts of stuff I'd done for them. Evidence. Proof. Something I could point to if anyone dared to say I'd abandoned them. Then I went after the smaller perks they thought were theirs. Amazon Prime. They'd been using my membership for years, with their own cards attached. Free shipping, free streaming, all of it. They treated it like it was some family plan when it was literally my account. So, I called customer service, reported suspicious activity, and had them close the entire household. Wiped clean. By that night, the family group chat was going nuts. My sister was the first to crack. Who messed with my Prime? I was literally just using it. Then another cousin. Who deleted the cabin schedule? I had a weekend saved. Mom sent 3 question marks in a row. They still hadn't put it together. No one mentioned the family dinner. No one said my name. They weren't worried about me. They were just confused. Their free ride had been cut off. My phone kept buzzing for an hour straight. One cousin dropped a sarcastic line. Guess the universe is glitching, huh? Another said, cabin stuff better not be messed up. I already told my friends about July. I leaned back on the couch, scrolling through their little freakout. Didn't answer a single one. Watching them panic over losing my generosity felt better than any argument I could have had. Then, around 9:40 p.m., my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I don't pick up unknown numbers, but something told me to answer. It wasn't my mom. It wasn't my dad. It was their lawyer. Hi, this is Jennifer Parker. I represent your mother and father in some ongoing family matters. I was hoping we could talk. Her tone was calm, professional, like she'd practiced it. I didn't say anything, just sat there in silence. She kept going. Your father wants to reclaim the vehicle he gave you 2 years ago. He plans to transfer the title to a colleague of mine. I know it was a gift, but he is requesting you return the car immediately. For a second, I thought I misheard. The car? Really? After all the crap, they'd already lost the cabin, the credit account, the Prime membership. They were coming after scraps now. Not because they needed it, but because they wanted to remind me they still had some control. I didn't argue, didn't fight. I just asked her when and where. She sounded caught off guard, like she'd expected a meltdown. She stuttered, giving me a time and their address. I said, I'll be there, and hung up before she could add another word. That was the difference. Now, I wasn't asking. I wasn't explaining. I wasn't begging anyone to understand. I was done. When people show you, over and over, that they don't respect you, there's only one way to respond. Take back everything they think they own. and I was just getting warmed up. The lawyer gave me the time and place. Their house, 10 p.m. sharp. I didn't argue, didn't drag it out. I wanted it to be quick and clean, like ripping off a bandage. The next morning, I went out to the driveway and started cleaning the car, not detailing it for them, just pulling out my stuff. My charging cord, the sunglasses in the glove box, the backup registration I'd left in the center console, even the old gas receipts tucked in the side pocket. Each item reminded me how many times I'd used that car to help them. Driving Dad to appointments, picking up groceries when Mom forgot, loaning it to my sister when she swore she'd just need it for the day. All that effort, all those favors, and now it was just another thing they thought they could demand back. It didn't sting. It felt final, like closing a file I should have deleted years ago. I pulled into their driveway. The same driveway I used to shovel in the winters when I lived there. The same uneven hedge on the left side that always died in the cold and grew back lopsided every spring. The place looked the same as it always had. Nothing changed, nothing improved, just stale. As I got out of the car, I noticed their neighbor, Mr. Patterson, walking his dog. He gave me a friendly wave and said, "Hey, long time no see." I waved back and kept moving. The timing couldn't have been worse. Everyone inside watching me while their neighbor made it feel like some kind of reunion. I rang the doorbell. A second later, my mom answered. Behind her, my dad stood with his arms folded, stone-faced, like he was there just to supervise. My sister was sprawled on the couch, phone in hand, pretending not to listen. She even had on the hoodie I'd bought her last Christmas. Perfect. I held out the keys. "Here," I said. "The lawyer said you wanted the car back." My mom didn't take them. She just blinked for a second, then launched into her speech. "We need to talk. Enough of this nonsense. You don't get to pull stunts like this with family. Sit down with us and fix it." Her voice shifted as she spoke, cold at first, then suddenly warm, then overly dramatic, like she was auditioning for a role. I didn't cross the threshold. I stayed on the porch. "I'm not interested in talking. I'm not angry. I'm finished." I paused. "I'm not going to keep giving while you keep pretending I don't belong here." That's when my sister suddenly sat up and jumped into it. "You're taking this too far. Mom had a lot on her plate at dinner. She wasn't serious. You're tearing down family over one slip." I just looked at her. She went on about how I was wrong, how I'd regret cutting people off who cared about me. I thought about asking her when exactly this caring had ever happened. Was it when she begged for rent money while buying designer boots? Or when she sat silent while Mom told me I wasn't part of the family? But I didn't bother. I set the keys on the porch railing. "Car's here. We're done." And I turned to leave. Behind me, my mom called my name like it might change something. My dad stayed silent. My sister muttered something under her breath, but I didn't catch it. I walked down the steps, waved off Mr. Patterson as he looked over again, and ordered a taxi from the curb. Sitting in the back seat, I didn't feel sad or angry, just done. Like when you finish a long project at work and finally close the folder. When I got home, I went straight to my bank account. I'd been sending my sister $900 every month for rent since February. She'd claimed she lost her job and just needed help until she got back on her feet. I never questioned it. The first payment she got, she bought a pair of designer boots and posted them on Instagram with the caption, "Retail Therapy." That should have been my sign, but I let it slide. I opened the transfers tab, found the recurring payment, and canceled it. By the next morning, my phone was flooded. 10 missed calls, group chat messages, voicemails from my sister, cycling between confusion, anger, and guilt trips. "You can't just cut me off. Do you even realize I'll lose everything if you don't step up? Wow. So you're really okay with watching me fail? You're supposed to have my back, not leave me hanging. This has nothing to do with what Mom said. Stop dragging me into it and grow up." Unbelievable. After all the times I've supported you, this is how you treat me? Cold and selfish. I didn't respond to a single one. By afternoon, the group chat was chaotic. Cousins asked what was going on. My uncle sent his usual, "This family is falling apart," text, the one he trots out whenever he doesn't understand the details. My mom wrote a long essay about how communication is the only way forward. Still no apology. Still no one admitting anything. Just more deflection, more guilt, more pretending. I read the whole thread once, then muted it. Sat back on my couch, legs up, and felt lighter than I had in years. The car was gone. The rent was cut. And the message was clear. I was done being their ATM. They wanted to treat me like I was nothing at dinner? Fine. Let's see how they liked life without me quietly holding everything together. Because I've been through enough family drama to know the pattern. Mom runs her mouth. My uncle laughs too loud. Cousins pile on with dumb comments. My sister hides behind her phone. And Dad? He just sits there like a ghost at the table, always watching, never speaking. Like silence was his role in the family. That's how it's been for as long as I can remember. So when he finally broke that silence, it wasn't just unexpected. It was like a crack running through the entire foundation. It happened early one morning. I was half awake, scrolling the news on my phone when a notification popped up from the family chat. My first thought was it was another one of Mom's "Family is Everything" articles or some blurry photo of her cooking. Instead, it was from Dad's number. One sentence, "I'm serious. Anyone not living here will lose the right to come into this house if this behavior continues." That was it. No hello, no emojis, no context. Just a hard line in the sand. I read it 3 times. Honestly, I thought maybe he'd been hacked. My dad doesn't text. He's the type who calls the cable company to complain about the bill, but won't even send a thanks if you text him directions. For him to suddenly drop something like that in the group chat, that was a bomb going off. And everyone else felt it, too. My sister fired back almost instantly. "What do you even mean by that?" Followed by, "FYI, this is my place now too. I live there now." And just like that, it slipped out. She hadn't admitted it directly to anyone, but it was obvious now. She'd moved back in with my parents. That explained the Instagram posts, the blurry kitchen shots, the couch with the ugly green cushions. She wasn't just crashing, she'd set up camp. Dad didn't reply. 5 minutes later, Mom jumped in, predictably. She sent one of her long-winded paragraphs, the kind where she tries to sound like a wise therapist. She wrote about how the tension in the family was hurting everyone, and we'd lost sight of what's important. She even added some nonsense about how communication was the only solution, like she was quoting one of those podcasts she listens to while cleaning. But the vibe was clear. She was panicking. Then came the cousins. One typed, "This is crazy. Can't believe it's gotten this far." Another said, "Guys, we're family. Let's not make it worse." My uncle, never missing his chance to sound dramatic, dropped his usual, "This family is on the edge of a cliff." Makes me sick. He says that every time there's tension, even if he has no clue what's actually going on. Normally, that would have sparked a whole back and forth, but this time, nothing. No arguments, no piling on. Dad's single sentence had shut the room down. That was when it hit me. Maybe I'd had him figured wrong. I always assumed his silence meant he didn't care, that he was too weak to push back against Mom, too checked out to bother. But maybe he'd been watching all along, storing it up the same way I had, quietly clocking every slight, every guilt trip, every freeloading stunt. Maybe dinner hadn't just pushed me over the edge. Maybe it pushed him too. Meanwhile, my sister tried damage control in her own way. That afternoon, she posted some blurry shot of the dinner table on Instagram with the caption, "Family always comes first." Classic fake smile post, like she thought one photo with a heart emoji would convince everyone nothing was wrong. I saw it and laughed. Nobody in the family liked it, not even Mom. That told me all I needed to know. By evening, Mom came back in the chat with another wall of text. This time, she went on about how nobody is perfect, and we can repair this if we try. Then she threw in the line that made my blood boil. "Your dad didn't mean it the way it sounded." That was her move, pretending he was confused, that he needed her to interpret his words. But he meant exactly what he wrote. Everyone knew it. And then, silence. Not peaceful silence. Not the kind where you feel relief. This was heavy, like everyone holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. No memes, no coupon links, no random updates about my uncle's barbecue plans. The chat went dark. For once, the noise stopped, and I just sat back watching it unfold, realizing something I never expected. Maybe I wasn't the only one who was finally done playing their games. The silence after Dad dropped his one-liner in the group chat lasted longer than usual. 3 straight days, and not a single ping. Normally, if things went quiet, it was just a pause before the circus started again. Mom with another essay about family bonds, my uncle bragging about his grill, or my sister posting passive-aggressive memes. This time, nothing. On the 4th day, I was in line at the pharmacy when my phone lit up with Chris's name. He's the only cousin who usually stays out of the drama, so I answered. "Hey man," he said. Have you talked to anyone today? Nope. What? He hesitated. Your sister isn't living at the house anymore. She showed up here last night with her bags, crying. Said your dad told her to leave, or he'd toss her stuff out. I leaned against the shelf of cough drops. He actually said that? That's what she told me. Look, my wife's not thrilled. We don't really have space. I'm just letting you know. We hung up, but my mind was buzzing. Dad kicking her out wasn't something I expected. This was the same guy who always made excuses for her. She just needs time. If he'd reached that point, he was finished with the act, too. About an hour later, I got an email alert from the bank. Termination of joint account authorization. Dad had removed Mom from one of their shared accounts, the one I helped him set up years ago when she kept forgetting payments. I shouldn't have gotten the notice, but he'd never updated the backup contact. More alerts followed. A utility account change, a canceled insurance payment, all in her name. It was clear Dad was pulling her access, one piece at a time. Then came Mom's voicemail. No fake calm voice, no sweetness, just sharp and angry. Your father's acting ridiculous. He's dragging the whole family down. Go talk some sense into him. It's his mess, not mine. That last part said everything. Not me. She wasn't standing with him anymore. The united front had cracks. That night, I sat on my balcony and realized something. For years, their drama followed me everywhere. Even when I wasn't with them, I carried it through texts, calls, 3 a.m. arguments in my head. But not this time. I didn't feel trapped in it anymore. For the first time, I felt free. The days kept passing. 1 week, then 2. No messages from Mom. No cousin stirring the pot. No one last time, please, for my sister. Chris texted once, saying she was bouncing between friends' couches, spinning different versions of the story depending on who she talked to. Sometimes I was the villain. Other times, she was a misunderstood victim. Same playbook, new audience. I didn't reach out, didn't ask questions, didn't care. Meanwhile, my life started leveling out in ways I didn't realize I needed. I slept. Real sleep. Not the kind where you jolt awake rehearsing conversations that'll never happen. I set an alarm, got up, didn't feel like I was dragging an anchor around all day. I went back to the gym, stocked my fridge with real groceries instead of eating out 3 nights a week, cooked actual meals. Even small routines felt different, like walking after work or finally sorting through junk I'd been ignoring. Work changed, too. Meetings felt cleaner. My focus wasn't split between my job and the latest family fire. A coworker even said, "You look less stressed." He wasn't wrong. Of course, silence doesn't last forever. One evening, I got home and saw Mom outside my building, arms crossed, waiting. She hadn't called, hadn't texted, just showed up. "Can we talk?" she asked. "No," I said, unlocking the door. "You can't keep ignoring us," she snapped. "Watch me." I stepped inside. She didn't follow. A minute later, I heard the door slam. That was it. The next day, a cousin texted, "Aunt Janice says you're tearing this family apart." I didn't answer. Opinions from people who never lifted a finger didn't matter anymore. With a quiet resolve, I cleaned house, literally and digitally. Shut down old logins, removed their addresses from autopay, and made sure nothing tied me to them financially. Every click was a cord cut. That Saturday, I rented a car and just drove. No destination, no passengers asking for favors, just road, air, and no obligations. Simple, and better than I expected. I stopped refreshing the muted family threads. Days went by, and I didn't even peek. Turns out, when you stop waiting for the next explosion, life gets lighter. And that's when I really understood. The break in the house wasn't me selling the cabin or cutting off rent. It was Dad finally pulling the plug inside his own walls. He'd stopped enabling them, and they didn't know how to function without someone carrying them. That wasn't my problem. For the first time in years, my shoulders weren't tight, my jaw wasn't clenched, and I wasn't bracing for the next demand. I wasn't part of their noise anymore. I had my life back. 2 weeks after Mom showed up outside my building, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address, just my name on the front. The handwriting gave it away instantly, Dad. I opened it at my kitchen table. Short. No extra lines. "Jack, you were right to leave. I stayed silent too long and let things spiral. You don't owe anyone anything. You never did. Whatever piece you found, keep it. Dad." I read it 3 times. No drama, no guilt, no fake apology. Just the truth. I folded it and put it in a drawer with a few other reminders of who I am. That same week, I got an email from my manager. The project I'd been leading had saved the company more money than expected. They offered me a promotion. Higher position, better schedule, more authority. I said yes. The same day, a coworker slapped me on the back and said, "Knew you had it in you." I nodded, already planning my next step. With the raise secured, I booked a 2-week trip to a rental cabin near Flagstaff. Remote. Surrounded by trees. No neighbors in sight. I rented a car, turned off every notification, and left town. The drive was clean. No buzzing phone. No family drama. Just the road. When I arrived, the cabin sat quiet in the woods, exactly what I needed. I carried my bag inside, set it down, and walked back out onto the porch. The first few nights felt strange. Years of chaos had wired me to expect interruptions. I caught myself waiting for my phone to light up. It never did. By the third night, I stopped checking. Days had a rhythm. Morning coffee on the porch. Long walks on the trails. Afternoons reading through project notes I'd ignored for months. Evenings by the fire, watching the trees shift with the wind. On the 7th day, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Whoever it was, they didn't leave a message. I shut the phone off and put it in a drawer. The second week hit harder. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt earned. I wasn't bracing for a fight. I wasn't filtering my life through their drama. I was just living. On the last night, I sat outside under the stars with a blanket over my shoulders. I thought back through everything. The brunch, the cabin sale, the credit account, the car returned, the rent cut off, the group chat silence, Dad's warnings, my sister's Facebook rant, her eviction, Mom's voicemails, and finally, Dad's letter. One by one, I laid them out in my head like dominoes. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt finished. Not finished like slamming a door for attention. Not finished like daring someone to chase after me. Finished like a job completed. A task crossed off. A decision made. I stayed outside until the fire burned out. Then I went in, slept straight through the night, and woke up clear. When I got home, I unpacked the same evening. No messages from the family. No surprise visits. No fake apologies. The group chat was still dead. Chris later told me my sister was staying with another friend, telling people she was working on herself. Mom hadn't reached out. Dad hadn't either, but I didn't expect him to. His letter was all he needed to say. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and went through my schedule for the week. Promotion tasks, lined up projects, waiting deadlines. Ready. And not one of them involved fixing someone else's mess. That's when I realized the truth. They were still out there, still talking, maybe still hoping I'd come back eventually, but I wouldn't. Because sometimes, walking away isn't about slamming doors or shouting. It's about making a choice. One you stick to. One you don't undo. So, I'm curious, after hearing all this, what would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family to find your own peace? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.